Hello, everybody. It's your old friends at Nerds of Russ, and welcome back to the Best of All Worlds podcast here from your friends, myself, Jonathan, and the man to know, Captain Jerry Soul, as ever joining me for what is another exciting arc of episodes across the various, as it were, genres and various iterations of Star Trek over the years. Jerry, welcome back to the show. It's
Thank
been
you.
a hot month since we've spoken to each other and sat down and watched an episode of Star Trek together with a
Yeah.
critical eye.
Yeah.
Um, we are, I suppose it's like, yeah, like this is like the 31st episode. Technically, we've been doing this for like 3 years now, which is quite,
Wow.
I think, yeah. And in that time, we've kind of amassed quite an impressive league, shall we say, of Star Trek episodes. And while we have kind of emerged a kind of a rather interesting and exciting top five and top 10, we've also kind of gone to our flow of episodes that we've been kind of looking to do and themes and arcs that we're looking for. And we're kind of sticking to arcs for the next bit. So at the end of the video, we're going to spill all the beans and tell you exactly what episodes to look forward to over the year on the Best of All Worlds, because we did the same last year. It's only fair we keep it consistent.
Yeah.
But to start the whole ball rolling, if you will, and to give a bit of a clue of where we're going next, this episode is Genesis. Quite appropriate considering it's the start of the new arc and start of, at least in terms of recording, new year of Star Trek episodes. But it takes us back to the Next Generation, Jerry. And it's in fact the latest Next Gen episode we've done so far, because this is season 7, much to my fucking surprise, because I could have told you, I could have sworn blind this was season 3 or 4.
Yeah.
But we were all wrong on that one. So Jerry, not giving too much away, why have we picked Genesis as our episode for tonight?
I really wish you'd have said this to me before we start recording because I can't remember. Well, we're actually really excited about this because we're actually doing. Yeah, would you say horror episodes or would you say scary episodes? I kind of, I suppose the idea is horror, but episodes that would kind of boil your blood and scare the shit out of you in some sort of way. But yeah, this is the first one, first of a few. I'm actually really excited about this one because I do like my scary stuff. And well, it's only when you really think about it, it's only when you're actually thinking about it, is that there's actually a good bit of this in Star Trek. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
What's
because
going on?
we were looking for a next generation representative of a as a proverbial horror slash scary episode. I suppose we can just call it catch all say horror, because
Mhm.
there's various different flavors of horror around, as we'll find out when we reveal the full arc. But the with Next Generation, we were spoiled for choice. We were really, really spoiled for choice, and I suppose that's the advantage of having a kind of a serialized show that goes on for seven seasons. You get some really good horror episodes, you get some really shit ones, but overall, there's quite good like premises, or it's a take on a certain genre or flavor of horror, let's say. I suppose this one you kind of, I suppose, maybe put in the kind of the monster horror category, would
Mhm.
you say, or cosmic
Yeah.
horror, maybe? Yeah, something like that.
It's kind of like you'd put it into the same category of movies of maybe like Wolfman and Dracula type thing. It's kind of stuff like that, you know.
Yeah, monsters.
Like The Fly, even. There you go.
Fly's a good comparison, actually. Yeah, yeah. Now, like I said, I'm a massive horror buff myself now, but as I said, like it's sci-fi. They'll always like pull on different genres to make ends meet. But certainly this is a good starting off point for what will be hopefully a few underrated episodes, as it were, in the run. Because like there's one or two I'm thinking like, oh, these could actually score quite well. Especially as we run up then to what we think is going to be the biggest challenger of the lot. Again, tune into the end to find out more. But for now, Jerry, we've taken up quite a lot of time teasing people and getting everyone to buy into what we're doing. So shall we get the episode on the way?
Absolutely.
All right then. So, as the name implies, ladies and gentlemen, if you are not familiar with the show already, this is the Best of All Worlds. It is part watch along and part review. If you don't want to watch us reacting to the episode, just give us 45 minutes on the video, and we will give us our trivia and the review of the episode itself. But if you are willing to watch along with our esteemed commentary, then you press play as we do on your streaming device of choice. and we will watch along the episode together. But in the meantime, depending on your preference, Jerry, are you ready to start?
I'm ready to rock.
Let's do it then on 3, 2, 1, engage. Already the most horrific thing is that jumper. I'm already terrified.
Yeah, Jesus.
I always told you Riker was a bit of a prick with him. Shocking enough, Jerry, this is our first Barclay episode of the series. This is
No,
the
surely
first.
not.
It is genuinely our first Barclay. Yeah,
He's so good.
he's brilliant, and again, he's a kind of a Guinan kind of syndrome. Any episodes with him typically turn out better.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's even more preposterous is that like even the 24th century, where every human is fully evolved and like sentient, essentially, you still get neurotics.
Mm-hmm.
There's hope for us all, lads. There's hope for us all.
Whatever you say.
Yeah. There's Barclay just looking into the centrifuge to see if his finger is spinning or not. It's great.
I think as well, right? And I don't know whether you agree with yours, but I
Mhm.
think this is when Crusher's hair was the nicest.
Hmm. Well, it's quite a coincidence actually, because this is the one episode directed by Gates McFadden.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah, there you go. So she probably insisted, this is how I should always look. I love that Riker's in the background going.
He's just looking, going, "What the fuck's going on?"
Oh, we have to be careful with those flues.
Mm-hmm.
You have one dormant gene out of 100,000. Activate that gene with a synthetic T cell. Blood body by infection natural.
Can we possibly remove the dormant gene? How bad is your inferiority complex when you get upset about your dormant genes? It's like,
Well, I only buy Levi's, so
yeah. Yeah, I'm more of a next man myself, personally.
I've noticed that many humans prefer not to know in order to experience.
Isn't the most adorable part of the next generation after a while that Data has a cat?
Mm-hmm.
It's like what great way for him to explore the human condition than to not fuck up an animal.
Yeah. I only watched Generations the other day,
Mm.
and the last few minutes of it is where he finds Spot after the Enterprise crashes, and he starts crying.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Don't fucking do this to me, you bastards!"
With no emotion chip as well.
So generally, you get some sort of feeling as to what the episode's going to be like from that intro.
Yeah.
You have no fucking clue
No.
what the episode's going to be like from that.
No.
You say
it's
yourself,
all
right,
very
it's going to
soap opera.
centralize around Data and the cat being pregnant, and now the nurse being pregnant now as well.
Yeah.
But it's really not.
No. Like if you had said that, like, oh, that like first scene is actually taken from a previous from another episode, I kind of believe you, But like I said, that's up down. That's now down to the right, and the sea does the episode flow well. In the meantime, it gives us a chance to gush over to Galaxy class again. Beautiful.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
What I never realized about the Galaxy class was because I wanted to do more research into it, because in Next Generation, you only ever see two.
Yes.
Which obviously the Enterprise and the Yamato. Of course, that blows up. Deep Space Nine up until season 4, you
Yeah,
only saw one, and that was the Odyssey,
that's right. Yeah.
and then the Venture,
Hmm.
and then during the Dominion War, you saw loads of them.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I did a bit of research into it, and initially there was only supposed to be 6
Oh, okay.
because Starfleet didn't believe in big ships.
Yeah.
They believed in smaller ships, and like look at the likes of say the Akira, the Defiant, smaller ships pack a punch.
Yes.
So bigger ships, they weren't into bigger ships. That was for other races like the Klingons and the Romulans and whatnot.
Hmm.
They didn't like them, and they cost too much. And we've seen now with the Enterprise F is that it only lasts a couple of years because of systems failures.
Yeah.
So it's a thing where you're like, okay, well, fair enough. We go with the smaller ships. We can have a lot
Hmm.
more of them. But
But I think that's kind of
I like the
the law.
galaxy. I'm like, why can't there be loads of them?
Yeah, but I suppose that's what makes them unique as well. They're almost like they're luxury liners compared to your proverbial kind of light or your dinghies in a sense. Like they're, it's one thing to be kind of on a little scout ship or a light cruiser, but like the Galaxy class is a fucking heavy ass cruiser. Like
Mm.
that is the biggest ship you can find. The same way that like how many like Sovereign class ships are there going to be? Probably just 2 or 3. Like the Sovereign itself and the Enterprise E and maybe 1 or 2 others. Again, for Star Trek Online, they probably have provided a bit more, but I don't even recall seeing even the Picard series, not that many around.
Well, actually, you'd be surprised. They decided not to go with the Galaxy because they're so big. A lot of the area inside wasn't being used because you'd have to have for everything to be used, you'd have to have 5 to 10,000 people in it, so it'd be huge.
Yeah, that's true.
Whereas a Sovereign is actually a lot smaller, and with regards to like the Sovereign and the Enterprise F, the new one, they're not that dissimilar in size.
No, I
They're a
suppose
lot
not.
small. They're
Yeah.
smaller, but they've taken a lot of the science areas and empty areas out of the galaxy and put them into the Sovereign.
Of course, that was more intended for like the Enterprise E was based in break glass situation if the Dominion
Yeah,
War went bad. Yeah.
but you actually if you look at the Picard series, there's actually a lot of Sovereign classes in it. You just don't realize it.
Yeah, that's true. And then I suppose then it kind of explains why they revert to something like the Constellation classes then for the Enterprise G, because
Yeah.
they were in the interest now of downsizing their ships again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I suppose at that stage between the shipyards being blown up and the I was going to say control there for a second. That was Discovery talking there, but the Borg attempted coup, like they want to basically just get ships back in circulation essentially.
Yeah.
So building smaller ships makes sense.
Mm.
Oh.
I love that. She's a bitch.
I know the feeling. I love that this is the one thing that Barclay's an expert in. Like
Yeah.
like I know he's a smart guy in a lot of fields, but this is like, oh, cats I can do. Cats, I'm cats. Yes, I can do
Yeah.
cats. Perfect. Because the one thing he has an intellectual supremacy in is how to work with cats.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he should have been the Enterprise D vet. That would have been a nice little mini series for
It actually
Barclay.
would have. Yeah.
Yeah. Says the twitchiest man in the crew. No, really, it's fine. It's fine. You can trust me. I'm good with cats because they don't talk back.
I love how the two of these are so different
Mm,
in their approach of this happening to them. I think it's funny.
yeah. There's also very in keeping with the personalities as well.
Hmm.
We're now starting to get to Prime Wharf aesthetics now with the ponytail and the the new head mask.
Yeah.
Meh. Oh yeah, and this season 7, lads. Troy and Worf in the Little
Mm.
Romance. Doesn't work though, does it? It didn't seem to make sense.
No. Like you never see Worf like this. He's acting like a proper Klingon right now.
Yeah. Michael Dorn approves.
Worf really knows how to leer.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Mm-hmm.
If you were under the prosthetics, you do the Robert Rooney eyes, wouldn't you? It's like
Mm-hmm.
yes, it's just all part of the aesthetics. And no one gave me lemon water for my wings.
I've never noticed it before, but he's not wearing his teeth prosthetics because he's eating.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it's a very good point,
He has
actually.
these perfectly white, straight teeth, whereas Worf has kind of fangs and stuff.
Do you think he takes out his fangs then when he's actually eating human food? It's like, oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're back in there. Look.
Yeah.
It hasn't come up yet because you haven't done any like Klingon heavy episodes, but Worf's like quarters are amazing.
Yeah.
I just love the aesthetics. It just, like I said, it is deliberately a half and half Starfleet and Klingon decor.
Yeah. But I think I don't know whether it's just the two of them, but him and Data are the only crew, I think, that have central quarters with no windows.
Mm, that's true, actually. Yeah, they doesn't have any. I suppose they're two that would probably don't really want windows or care for them.
Mm-hmm.
Us humans very much like our like something to look through.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is kind of like very Klingon based. It's what's the word enclosed and
Yeah.
light on comfort, shall we say? So that's what they well that's like what like 10 minutes into the episode now we've or 12 minutes into the episode we've now realized oh something's gone wrong.
Mm-hmm.
That's very subtle. I've only caught that now. He's doing that. You have to wonder is that was that part of the whole
It has to be. It has to be.
this is like it's a weird hand action to be doing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant LaForge, I think your decision to give Barclay some cocaine has some mixed results. One, he's picked the guidance system. Two, he's relapsing.
You do forget she's a commander.
Yeah. And now finally she's actually wearing her uniform.
Yeah.
And you can actually see the sweat on him as well. Like it's that's a
Yeah.
Everyone seems to be changing a little bit.
Mhm.
Din 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 din. Tell them Riker no work no more.
That's actually the first time I've seen gray in his hair.
Yeah,
Well, it was more in his beard than his hair, I suppose.
yeah. These are getting a little bit too much at the moment.
Mhm.
Temperatures drop almost 8 degrees. Doctor, we've had three of the students complaining about temperature levels. Some feel like they have fevers, others they're freezing on passage one. Call Dr. Solar and
Yeah, that's a name you haven't heard in a while, Dr. Solar. You can my failure as a technical officer as a symptom.
how long it's come.
Well, no, that seemed like a bit unnecessary. Yes. Yeah. Like, hey, continue. It's like, your name is. I am the Barkley. Show buzz the way. Fucking Kermit the Frog going off to his adventure there. What's an alpha? Just the blue screens. Bloom.
Yeah. I've never gotten trips of a long amount of time on a shuttle.
Mm,
Because at least with a runabout, they have like sonic showers and rooms and stuff like that. But it's a shuttle. There's
yeah.
not a single. There's only one toilet on the Enterprise. There's
Mm.
nothing on the goddamn shuttle.
They're just so regular, Jerry. They can just hold everything in place for 3 days.
And Picard's a dirty, smelly fucker. He hasn't washed in 3 days.
I imagine Data would smell rusty after a while.
Mm.
You know, it's a bit of a problem when you see the ship kind of like upside down. That's kind of bad for it. It's also a visual you don't see that often as well. It's like when it's upside down, that's kind of an issue.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. And it's a very simple effect to do as well, because like you're like, well, simple in the sense where like you're rotating the model, but you know, rotating the model in of itself, being 7 foot, is quite a tough task in of itself.
Mm-hmm. The one thing I will say is, so far, the points of, stuff, something happened. It's been like,
Yeah.
and then it's just now this real ominous, low, 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 and you just know something will come along and it'll be. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, this is where the episode needs to be strong, is in its in its ambience,
Yeah.
in its atmosphere. And again, like we've said this before, where sometimes like they need to be creative with how they shoot things and how they light things for certain
Yeah.
episodes. This is an example of it. Like we've seen this Carter countless times, but
Mhm.
not like this. I think the episode before this in the run was Masks. That's the one where everyone kind of has the Mayan kind of
Yeah.
aesthetics, and like the corridors slowly change into temples as time goes on. And that's another example of it. It means there's been a fucking snake on board this whole time. Jeez.
Sounds like a pig in the background.
Could be, to be fair. Even the doors are regressing.
Oh shit, Sherlock.
I think the water seeping from the roof would tell you that. Hmm. We bye.
Yeet.
She's like, back to my happy place. She's fine. She's okay. Oh, uh, such a terrible shame to lose a red shirt so close at the end of the show.
Yeah. The console is actually quite badly smashed as well.
Isn't it? Yeah.
There's the first inkling of what you're going to see.
Yeah, a bit of a clue there, yeah.
2011 individual life forms within the ship. All exhibit a similar genetic flux to the one we observed in the house of Troy, so the entire ship has been affected. Most of the life forms are scattered throughout the ship. However, there are several large concentrations in the Arboretum and the Aquatic Lab. We gained to control the ship.
First time they've ever mentioned an aquatic lab on the Enterprise.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. That's where the cetacean ops are.
Yeah, the dolphins.
That's right. But the thing is a wonderful thing. And is solely because of Star Trek 4. The movie, that is. If anyone wondering. Riker, if you touch my globe, I swear to God, I'm going to backhand you with the O. Wow, this is almost beyond belief. Fact or fiction?
The brain is much smaller, so can you understand what it is?
I was like, no, that's a bad Riker. You get your command when you're ready. Yeah, because usually Deanna Troy just turns into a frog every weekend or so. So where's the counselor? Oh, she's in the jacuzzi. Frog week. Oh.
Fucking Barkley.
Barclays fucking T cells again. See, that's what happens with reset with fucking defective genes.
Evolutionary sequences of DNA which provide
I can only imagine that like real fundamental Christian fundamentalists looked at this episode and went, no, no, no. Which would imply that's how Beta said, or I suppose Beta Zeds evolved from.
Yes, sir. I would say Australopithecine.
Fiber for Brent Spiner getting that one take.
Introns can include genetic material from many different species over millions of years of evolution. It is possible that a wide variety of transformations is occurring on through it. The virus Should work on non-human crew members the same way.
That's a good little hand way to explain, like, like people always wonder what would aliens look like in real life, as it were, if we ever encountered them.
Mm.
Like, in a sense, you were expecting like similar mutations to what we had, like eons ago ourselves.
Mm.
So, in theory, like you could regress into whatever you want,
12 hours can consider the first signs of your eventual transformation.
You're going to be a butterfly, Captain Picard.
He's just so
Oh.
nonchalant about it. Yeah.
On several microcellular
I call him Lore.
And at this point, Laura would have been captured. Yes. So yeah.
Mm. He's just stored in a OneDrive account and Data's name. Oh. Episode is automatically better because it has kittens in it.
found hungry. I'm curious as to why Spot is not caring for them.
I'm sorry, but that's just
So
unintentional comedy
strange.
from me,
So
isn't it?
strange. The look on his face is just pure disgust. It's
Because
not
it
my
wouldn't.
fucking cat.
Spot's transformation points approximately at the same time. How could you give birth to the kittens at the same time that you changed into a reptilian life form? I believe so.
Which makes me think they're going to be some fucked up cats in a few hours. Can you tell this is directed by Beverly Crusher?
What antibodies are necessary to obtain the pregnant human. Mr. Gallo has recently become pregnant.
And now the first scene of the show makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I traced the combat signal to Deck 17, Section 21 Alpha. The operator. One of the four plasma vents has failed. Main engineering has been abandoned. There is no one there to fix the problem.
Hey there, Spot.
Look, Spot. Don't eat the kittens. Welcome to Barclay's Lair.
I hate Spot. I hate Spot.
Spiders and Barclay together at last.
Sparkly.
Barclay, yeah. Barachnid. You can tell from the webs, Captain. If you grow a tail, Captain, please inform me.
As a result, their instincts probably included a heightened sense of awareness.
I wonder where Barty's just kind of scuttled away to. He's just like, and is there other
He's looking at the
arachnids?
head. The head just comes around. There, yeah, bastard.
Yeah.
For retrovirus, it neutralized synthetic T cells and reestablished genetic patterns in hosts. It will not take long to isolate the appropriate genetic material. I will need to get the supercomputer computer back on.
I don't understand why Data would be worried because would have superior strength.
Hmm. Well, to be fair, he doesn't seem that bothered. It's like,
Mm.
that's supposed to be Crusher there underneath the cover, isn't it? Going with the hair.
The which, sorry?
Crusher there on the beside Riker.
Yeah.
The hair is just there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Nice touch there, isn't it? The Easter egg.
Not in a place that might be life-threatening, nowhere near a major artery or organ. Look at this. Look at this injury. This wound was never intended to give her any kind of serious harm. Captain, what do you suggest? Is it possible that Worf could see Council Troy as his mate?
Oh God, this is how they found out they were going to be a couple. Captain, how could you tell him my feelings with Council Troy? Well, when you de-evolved,
She's no longer in sick bay, but she's gone into some other part of the ship. A blood sample from one of her sebaceous glands where the pheromones are produced.
quite a lot of science babble in this episode.
Loads.
Yeah.
Work on the part of the ship. No. You go and work on the retrovirus. I'll go. Captain, that is extremely unwise. Work may be past no time. No time too long.
This getup is amazing.
Mhm.
I love that you don't really see it. It's always kind of obscured in shadow,
Yeah.
but it looks so fucking good.
Always reminded me of an Unis from Stargate.
Yes, it does, doesn't it? Actually, it's a very good show. Other Picard is basically just spraying frog piss every now and then. It's like,
Yep. Run, Pickard, run.
use those lemur skills, bouncing the walls. Like, "Eh." Come on, Picard, parkour, parkour. He's like, oh, I can do this now. Shit.
Come on, Pickard. For Jesus' sake, come on.
Scoot boy.
Substitution by 32%.
And we're fine again.
Release into the ship's atmosphere in a gaseous state. However, it will take some time to connect. Mechanics, are you all right, sir? Yes, I'm fine, Mr. Deck. Proceed.
Oh, he's a scared little captain. Ah, yes, the good old fashioned everything is fine ending.
Everything is awesome.
Let's not speak about these horrible events. Rest in peace, that ensign.
Yeah, you dope.
You see here, if I didn't direct this episode, I would have got something worse. See, this is an episode called Sub Rosa that I was going to get instead.
No, Reg, this is a completely new disease, and it's traditional to classify a new disease with the name of the first diagnosed patient.
Oh, you mean you want to name the disease after me?
Right. How about Barclay's protomorphosis syndrome?
Barclay's protomorphosis,
He hates it. Thanks, I hate it.
Transformed into a spider with Alex disease.
How was your day, Diana Troy? Well, all of my uniforms are soaked, so could be better. Could be better. I love that they just kind of focused on Barkley there for the ending as opposed to everyone else. It's like
Yeah.
Riker going like, so what was the code for Starfleet Command anyway? It was like, obviously the infection, stopped you from remembering it, right? No, I just don't know it. Or
I don't know. I just don't know. No, I just don't know.
Or Worf coughing up the rest of the venom, just like it's a yeah. Oh dear.
I'm never drinking Romulan ale.
So anyway, so that's the episode. That's Genesis. The Phil Collins, not the Phil Collins one, but you get the idea. So yeah, it goes without saying we don't have any ships to worry about in this one. But we do have a couple of a couple of guest stars that we can talk about proper, seeing that we have a good excuse to. And we need something to fill this part of the show because there's fuck all else on in this one. Let's talk about some guest stars then. So we have a couple of one and dones, some more famous than others. We'll start off with the red shirt that very much cut to shreds in this one. He played Ensign Dern, named the actor Carlos Ferro. So in terms of what you would know him for, he's actually a voice actor by trade, would you believe? You will know him a lot as Dominic Santiago from Gears of War. That's how you know him as. But he would also know him. He actually does quite a lot of voice acting, as it turns out. So he's done. He's been in the series Spawn. That's perhaps his most prominent role. I would think. I think he's also been in the stuff like he's done a lot of like kind of like one shots as it were. So yeah, I think Gears of War. He was in Assassin's Creed and Saints Row and Uncharted is all different kind of miscellaneous voices. However, I think from the video game standpoint, you'll know him more so. Actually, this is interesting now. His three most prominent roles in video games has been as Dominic Santiago in Gears of War. He was Michael Corleone in the Godfather games. And he was also Leonardo da Vinci in Assassin's Creed 2.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Well, so the whole Assassin's Creed trilogy where Ezio is the starring protagonist, you'll know him from that. So there you go. That's how you know him as. I think that's about the majority of it in that sense. So yeah, there you go. So that's his claim to fame. In terms of Star Trek, he is just in this this role as someone who gets cut to shreds by presumably Proto Worf. So we go from there. Next up then is Patty Yasutake, or so forgive me if I butchered the pronunciation of that. She is of course the actress who plays Alyssa Ogawa, who ended up being quite central to the episode in the end. Nurse Ogawa kind of makes quite a few appearances actually in the overall in Next Generation. I think she's in 16 episodes. Kind of very much like a case of like Crusher needs a number two to talk to, let's say.
Yeah.
And you'll get it basically from there. So she does of course make it into Next Generations and First Contact, both as Nurse Ogawa. So she does make the movies. And in terms of her other works, you might know her as Mrs. Howard from Drop Dead Gorgeous, which is quite a underrated film if you are aware of it. In fact, we watched it on Weekend at Amy's on this channel. I thoroughly recommend you go check that out. In terms of other recurring episodes, obviously she was in a few series like Gung Ho back in the mid 80s. She was also in Sons and Daughters, Mr. Belvedere, and let's see, a couple of other ones we're throwing there. A lot of guest stars really. Apart from that, oh yes, she was in Boston Legal. And Just Legal as well, in very quick succession. And she was in the episode Closer. She was in NCIS Los Angeles. And again, also a voice actor. She was Mei Lin in Bioshock Infinite. So
okay,
yeah,
you tend to get a lot of voice actors from Star Trek, actually.
You do, you really, really do. Or again, people who transitioned either to start off as an actor, say in the 80s or 90s, and now suddenly massive fucking back catalogue of voice acting. In fact, Paddy is actually in the most recent Yakuza game, or now as it's called, Like a Dragon. She is actually the voice of Akane Kishida in that game as well. So she is still working, age 70, but still going strong. Fun fact, actually, she used to be the admin for the Howard Fine Acting Studio. And that was actually before she got into acting, would you believe? And again, this won't come as a surprise as well, but she was actually in the running to be Keiko O'Brien.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know there were a few actors that went for that, and I can see. Yeah, she probably would have been a good Keiko in fairness, but no, I think the Keiko we got was a good Keiko. So
Keiko, the Keiko we got was very much the proverbial nagging wife that O'Brien needs.
Yeah,
kind of way. It was very much like, it's like Gene Roddenberry watched some of Roddy Doyle's movies and said, "That's the wife. Eat that wife." But
because all you want is like, just channel your inner Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
What's the next generation equivalent of Jesus?
Um,
um,
oh, um, oh God, I don't know actually. No, oh God, I don't know. What would it be?
I don't know. Like it's just like I presume if you're very, very passive aggressive acknowledged, like or on my way, sir.
Ah, you know, you kind of you say to yourself, in what scenario would say Picard say, "Ah, Jesus," or the equivalent of "Ah, Jesus"? Uh, Roxana Troy beams aboard.
Oh yes. I'll be in my ready room.
Oh Jesus!
There we go. Yeah. So, um, so yeah, there you go. So that's Paddy is like he's still working, as we said, whether it be as in front of the screen or behind the microphone. So, the last one we're going to speak to again is not someone who's a one and done, but it gives us a good, very good excuse to talk about Reginald Barclay. So, as we all know, he is played by Dwight Schultz, who I suppose most people will know him as Murdoch from the
Yeah,
18. That's kind of where, certainly from the face alone, that's where you see him from. But from a Star Trek point of view, we see him as Reginald Barclay, who I suppose like as a concept, he was kind of thrown in to be. I suppose he was kind of thrown in to be like the most relatable character to us, as it were, especially if you're in any way a fucking neurotic or hypochondriac or someone who is just or has like a imposter syndrome. He is perhaps the most relatable character in Star Trek. Would that be a fair shout, Jerry?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. He's definitely someone who, you know, you can't really kind of compare yourself to the likes of Riker or Picard or anyone like that, but you could kind of say, yeah, that's me. Yeah, there's a bit of Barkley in me. Yeah, absolutely,
Hmm.
100%. Yeah,
It's a fascinating one because like I always look at it like the first episode you see him in is that obviously that weird like the Hollow Pursuits episode where he's got everyone like basically as the kind of like he's doing his kind of wish fulfillment on the holodeck, and that immediately kind of puts the character on a bit of a wrong foot in the sense it makes him look weird. But then every other episode that he's in, especially if it's a Barclay centered episode, they're usually quite good and he develops character quite well.
yeah.
Um, although remarkably enough, he ends up being actually in more Voyager episodes than he does in the Next Generation, which is just I find that kind of ironic in a sense. So the
Really?
5 episodes, yeah. I actually have the episodes right in front of me here. So the first episode we see him in was Hollow Pursuits, as I mentioned there. The
Yeah.
second one then was the Nth Degree, which I would consider perhaps the best Barclay episodes.
Is that the one where he gets really clever?
Yeah, the hyper intelligence one, yeah.
Yeah.
And he
So,
and he suddenly is able to act with like the fucking with the powerhouse performance that makes Crusher cry and all this sort of stuff. Realm of Fear then is the one where he's having his he notices there are things in the transporter beam.
yeah.
So he thinks he has transporter psychosis. The episode after that then is Ship in a Bottle. If you remember that one, Jerry.
That the Moriarty one?
That's the Moriarty one, yeah. That's
Yeah.
how where they trap Moriarty into a smaller into a micro reality. And then the last one of the Next Generation was this one, Genesis. This is the last we see Barclay of the entire run of
So
Next
what's that?
Generation.
Five Next Gen episodes?
Yeah, he pretty much does one per season, essentially.
Jesus. And then of
Yeah.
course he was in First Contact.
Yes, he was in First Contact.
So how many Voyager episodes is he in? It must be six then. There must be 6 or 7.
6, yes. So
Yeah.
he was in. So two of them were a bit of a cheat because he was a hologram in two of them.
Yeah.
Although rather well okay, I'll kind of be fair. So he was a hologram in the episode Projections, which was a season 2 episode. So that wasn't the one that really started with the whole like the I suppose the Earth arc of Voyager.
Yeah.
So he was just a hologram in that where he kind of shoot the shit with the Doctor. But then we have the actual episodes that were based off that, which was Pathfinder, and which kind of started off that whole arc, if you like, the Pathfinder project. So Deanna Troi, of course, is in that as well. Then we have Lifeline, which is I think the follow up to that episode, I think, where we meet Lewis Zimmerman, and again, it's a lot of it has to do with what's happening on Earth. Then we have Inside Man, which I believe is the one where he's interacting with the crew a little bit. Or he's I think that's the one he's relapsed. Sorry, I'm wrong. He has transmitted a hologram of himself to talk to the crew. That's what it was.
But the Ferengi stole it.
The Ferengi stole it. That's it. Then we have Arthur, which was I suppose, if you like, the sequel to A Measure of a Man, and is, I guess, technically the end of that arc, the Pathfinder arc,
Mm.
if you like, where they're having contact with Earth. And then the last episode was Endgame. He appears in that then, where
Oh
he's,
yeah, he was an older Reg in Endgame. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
teaching in the academy. His daughter was gone until he had to lie about Janeway. And
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
that was that. He was very good in that, actually, very very good in that.
Mm.
But yeah, he's a great character in Star Trek. I'll give him that. He really is. He's memorable. Is something you can definitely say about him.
It's a bit of a star turn, I have to say, actually putting him into the show, because, as I said, like he is, I suppose, the first indication of a non-Roddenberry character is the way I would look at it, because Gene Roddenberry had a very utopian way of looking at his characters, that they're all perfect, they're all fully evolved, everyone is sublime and pristine in how they look. And then suddenly, when you see Roddenberry kind of pulling back away, and you see other kind of executive producers like step up and other writers step up, they basically kind of made a very non-Star Trek character, which I think is great, because oftentimes they're aliens. They're like the aliens are the ones that are, like, they're not as evolved as we are, and then suddenly we have a human who is basically more human than everyone we've seen on the show. Because, like I said, like, for whatever reason, Roddenberry believed that, like, these characters have no failings, but of course any scriptwriter will tell you that the characters are much more fulfilling if they do have failings. Like, a great example actually is Kirk, in a weird way, because a bit of a tangent here, but in the original series, Kirk is the paragon. He is the perfect fucking all-American sweetheart. Like, he does everything by the book. Everything's right. You then get to Star Trek 6, and he's a massive racist against Klingons. But you see from the movies why he is that, and that is a failing of his.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's character development in certain respects, but it also shows that, like, the difference in writing for a TV show that is very Roddenberry, built-in Roddenberry, whereas in the movies, Roddenberry has to play ball with directors and producers, and they all have different visions. So it's very different. They're probably talking about two different characters, really. So. Although, again, the grand irony was that Barclay was actually conceived by Roddenberry himself. he just copped that, like, oh, we're actually missing someone like this off the show, and there you go. And that's where we got Dwight Schultz from. So yeah, there you go. And again, Barclay is someone who is very, very, like, synonymous in Star Trek radio. Like, even in I suppose in other apocrypha, he does so much. He's quite a prominent character. He's certainly one that is a big favorite in the novels and in the non-canon material as well. Like, we know him he's in the video game Elite Force 2, for example. He's in a lot of novels. He's in the Starship Creator as well. He's in a lot of stuff, really. So many novels have him as a kind of as a throwaway cameo character, let's say. So you have all this stuff. I think he also actually, obviously, he served in the Enterprise E as well. I think that's kind of delved into a bit. I think he's actually, in the video game, he's the chief engineer of the Enterprise E, as far as I'm aware. And I believe then he did, like, a couple of, like, kind of rescue missions for certain ships as well. So he was. Let me just read here now. So the most recent we see the oldest we see Barclay is in 2383. This is after the Pathfinder project, and he is reassigned to the USS Challenger, which is the one that Captain Scott had, Montgomery Scott, that is. It was hijacked by Rasmussen and Damon Bach. Again, these novels always love return these characters. Then, of course, as we all know, the Challenger was taken over by Geordi LaForge, because we saw that in the Voyager episode. So supposedly Barclay is the chief engineer of the Challenger, as we are believed to be told. And so that's basically it. He strikes me as a character who's going to show up somewhere in the end. Like, he is someone who's eventually he's going to be either on, like, the Picard sequel, or he's going to be on Prodigy. He sounds like a Prodigy character to me personally. Like, it feels like he should be there. Although Nolan Barkley would probably end up on fucking Strange New Worlds like Boimler and Mariner did, but however. Um,
You can
no,
only do that once. You can't do it again.
indeed, indeed. If we're talking about Reginald Barkley, we have to mention Dwight Schultz as well, who I think has one of the most prolific careers I've ever seen. Um, Considering that, like, if you were to start off like in his career, let's say, like to start your essentially your first big break is as Murdoch in the A Team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people would kind of, especially with a syndicated show, you kind of sit on that, wouldn't you? You kind of go, okay, that's it. I've got my money now, in a sense. But my goodness, this man's career is extraordinary. You know, even before the A Team, he would have been in Chips, Hill Street Blues, and he would have been in, and one of the Perry Mason was another one he was in as well, quite a few times. But then in terms of reoccurring roles, you keep going further up. He's in Diagnosis Murder for a couple of episodes. He's in Stargate SG-1 after all as the keeper, and he's also in Babylon 5, if I'm not mistaken, as well. He's also in Spawn, much like Carlos Ferro earlier on. And then now we start getting into the voice acting part of his career, where you'd arguably say he's actually been more prolific. He was in The Wild Thornberrys. He was in Spy Dogs, Family Guy. He was Eddie the Squirrel in Cat Dog. He was in Final Fantasy X. Would you believe? He was in, again, a couple of other like real life roles, but he was in Johnny Bravo. He was in Invader Zim, Rugrats, The Animatrix, Ninja Scrolls. He was in for a couple of episodes there as well. And to much of my surprise right now, he was Dingo Dial in Crash Nitro Kart. In fact, he is actually since the start of the, I suppose, like since like 2000, he's actually been the voice of Papu Papu in all Crash video games since Twin Sanity.
Wow.
He's actually the voice of Papu Papu in the most recent games in the Insane Trilogy.
I'd never known that. I would have never known that. Not in a million years.
One of my
mad.
particular favorites is Psychonauts. He's the character Crispin Whitehead in that game, and you will know it's him because it fucking looks like Barkley. You will once if you Google it, you'll see Dwight Schultz. It's not even remotely funny. They just straight up fucking copied him, but very deliberately. Again, I can keep going here. Killer 7. He was the character Harmon Smith. He was Heck the Rancher in Gun. In the Yakuza games, he was Kage. Let's see who else we got here. A couple of ones trying to pick out here. He was in the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy as Craig, Dog, and Ernest. All three of those characters. We have he was Python actually in Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. Would you believe? That's the one I didn't know of myself. Now, to be honest, I consider myself a Metal Gear Solid buff. He was Dr. Animo in Ben 10. He was Dr. Zev Cohen and Navigator Presley in Mass Effect. I'm still not even at 2007, by the way. Like, I'm not even remotely joking here. Valkyria Chronicles, he appears. He's Craven in Spider-Man Web of Shadows. For some reason, he's in the fucking 50 Cent video game. He's Martin in Mad World. He is Jaroth, I mentioned as well. He was in Mass Effect, so he's the voice of Jaroth there as well. He's in Dragon Age 2, doing kind of miscellaneous voices. He's Ashman in Gears of War 3, and he is also one of the voices in Skyrim as well. But probably people will know him as Admiral Arano and Neloth from they were both in one of the DLCs. He has a recurring role of Dr. Animo, so he's in a lot of the Ben 10 remakes and relaunches. And he's just kept on going. Most recently, again, I'm not, if I say recently, I'm at 2015 here now. He was Laszlo Valentin in Batman Arkham Knight. He was Worm in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series from back in 2015. It's insane. I've never seen someone do so much work when he doesn't need to. He could have just been Murdoch from 18, but he has kept fucking working. And it's absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
He's obviously somebody who likes keeping busy. And acting is obviously a passion for him, and he obviously makes a lot of money out of it as well. So, to continuously be doing it for that amount of time, the amount of work that he's done is incredible.
Yeah, it really is. Like again, we were talking about other characters that like when I see like an IMDb page that big, it's like a 60-year career. But like this man has been going now for it's about 45 years. And there's no reason for him to stop because
Yep.
he's still quite young. He's still getting gigs. He's still got reoccurring roles. And he's also in that one of those type of Rolodexes for video game as it were for video games generally that we can get Dwight Schultz on to do two or three different characters and no one will notice, kind of way.
Yeah.
And that's what's really good. He's able to hide his natural voice quite well. But then when you hear a character who is very Barkley-ish or Murdoch-ish, it comes out. And I think that's what that's kind of a more so the direction than anything else. But yeah, that's Dwight Schultz, that's Reg Barkley. I was personally shocked when I saw how much of a back catalogue he actually had, because like a few people, I might have just took it for granted that he was just Murdoch and Barkley. But it just goes to show you that sometimes when you do drill down, you see how much these guys have worked behind the scenes. Absolutely fucking incredible, and can only respect that so much. So yeah, in that case, then let's get stuck into the plot. Then, so it's time to score the episode, and as we always do, we start off with the main premise. So Jerry, Data and Picard go on an adventure because Worf fucked up the torpedo guidance system because he's a big fucking idiot.
Which is not like him when it comes to torpedoes. Now,
no, he loves his torpedoes. He does. Although he did say that the weapon system on the Enterprise E was far superior. But let's just forget about that part.
It's when you see, this is the thing. I remember watching that part and going, oh, hold on a minute. Okay, yeah, the weapons might be newer.
Yes.
And there might be more of them, but I don't see how they're vastly superior because they're not. There was only a couple of extra phaser strips. There would have been a blade of hull armor, and there would have been quantum torpedoes, but they still had photon torpedoes as well. So I'm like, shut the fuck up, Worf.
I think it's because he was captain of that ship as well. That was his boy. It was his ship,
Yeah, and it blew up because of him.
Yeah, well, that's a fair point. I can't really defend him on that one. But so anyway, so when Data and Picard come back, they see everyone devolving, and hilarity ensues. So,
yes.
as a hook, as a plot, how does that grab you, Jerry?
It obviously doesn't. It obviously doesn't grab you in the first scene because you haven't a clue like what's actually happening here now. So when you go into the next one, you can start to see the subtle little differences. In Barkley, he's starting to talk a little bit quicker. Poor Riker's starting to get a little bit dumbed down. You've got the aggressiveness of Worf, especially when he's eating, which I thought was hilarious. You've got the differences in Troy. So it's not we're going to hook you straight away. This is, I'm going to throw the hook out. I'm going to leave it out for a little while. Just let it bob up and down, and just give you a little bit, and then we'll reel you in. So I thought it's a good. Again, it's not immediately apparent what's actually happening in the episode. You think from that first scene that it's going to be about family, about pregnancy, about being a father or a mother or whatever it may be, because Spot is having kittens and Nurse O'Gow is pregnant, and that's what you immediately think. It's like, okay, it's just going to be one of those wholesome family episodes, and then it turns into something very dark and very different. And it definitely hooked me because I remember watching this for the first time and genuinely jumping at that Barkley moment when the spider jumps up. I do not like spiders, and that was very much a bad jump scare for me as a kid watching it. But it's a good idea. It was something different. It was very much a horror episode for Next Generation, something they'd never done before. The closest I think you would come to horror would be anything to do with the Borg on a Borg ship. Nothing to do with the lore, like Descent or like Q Who, not Q Who.
Iborg?
Iborg, maybe. Yeah, the one the one where we meet Hugh for the first time. Anything before that, like, would have been not very, but slightly horror-ish.
I'm just scrolling through here now, and seeing which ones catch my eye. Conspiracy is one we've already done, which is obviously
Conspiracy would have been another one, but I don't think Conspiracy was quite as dark as this. This is very much the darkest.
Actually, quite a dark one. Season 2, I remember that one. Where Silence Has Lease. That's the one with Nagila. Where he has the ship trapped, and that's a bit of a psychological one now. In fairness,
There is another one that's a bit darker as well. It's the Riker centric episode.
Oh yes, that's I'll tell you what. Is that the Mind's Eye? Is it? I think.
Not too sure the name of it, but it's the one where he's practicing it for a play, but he's actually
Yes.
going crazy, and I'm like, that's kind of dark as well. It's very much a psychological thriller type situation, and
Mm,
like, how is he going to get out of this? So that's another fantastic one. It
yeah.
kind of riddled all over Star Trek, but for Next Generation, this was like the first proper. We're going go with scary here,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was quite good in terms of scoring. I don't think I'd go so far as a 10, to be honest. I'd go maybe an 8 or a 9, but I don't think I'd go as far as a 10.
I think I'm happy with eight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we'll stick with
Like
8.
I
Yeah.
said, it's a different episode for Star Trek, and like I said, I
Mm.
think this is the kind of the, at least to my mind, the last of the horror-y episodes they do in the show, and it kind of felt like, certainly after a while, they wanted to do at least a horror-like episode per season, and this
Yeah.
is the last one they did, which was a more of a monster horror. Because
Yeah.
I'm even looking at the back at the seasons, you had like the one we were talking about there with Riker, that was Frame of Mind.
Yeah.
That's a very
Yeah.
psychological horror. That's like a very Truman Show esque type of premise. So you have one of that, and then the I think the other one that I had in mind was Schisms. That one in particular, now I think that really kind of like that's very much built on the whole like really one creepy scene where everyone's around the holodeck and they're trying to rebuild the table they were on when they were being
Oh,
experimented on.
yes, yes, yes. They actually allude to that race. You never hear of that race again, but they
No,
allude to that race in Star Trek Online, and it's um there are kind of creepy, scary kind of scenes in it. You hear
the clicking, yeah.
the clicking, and it's actually like you're watching the scene unfold in the game. You're like, oh, what the fuck's going on here? Like,
Mm.
I'm not one for scary games. I like scary movies. I'm not one for scary games.
Yeah.
I
I know
remember
the feeling.
back like the worst, like not the worst, but I think I drew the line. I think maybe it might have been Resident Evil 2 or something. I was like, no, no, done. Saying that, my son loves them. He loves the Five Nights at Freddy's games.
Yeah.
He loves
They're very much like, yeah, they're kind of a bit poppy though as well. It's a jump scare, it's the boo type of thing you're looking
I
for.
can't handle that. No,
Yeah.
no.
Although in fairness, now the Five Nights at Freddy's has like I'll give that a free pass because that has quite a lot of lore to it, whereas some of them are just cheap
Yeah.
jump scares. So that's to their credit, to be fair.
Mhm.
Silent Hill is the one that always gets me because
Oh no, I couldn't play it. No, no, no.
that's one that triggers your anxiety because like the enemy, like the things that are out on the screen don't actually come near you, they just happen to be there.
Yeah,
Or fucking like in the first scene, I think it's Silent Hill 2, where you're walking through this kind of like basically forest path, but the footsteps that the footsteps are making are half a second off yours. So you're not making the sound, someone else is, and it's, oh, you fuckers. You're like,
yeah.
I played like an hour and a half, my back was sweating. I was like, fuck. Like I was like,
There was another one as well. Actually, there was another game, Max Payne.
Max Payne, that's more of an action game, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was definitely an action game, but there was a scene where it's something going on, but you can just constantly hear a child crying,
Oh,
and
okay.
it freaked me the fuck out. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh no, 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 no! I was like, no, no, turn it. I never finished it. I never got past that part. I was like, no, that's just too much for me. Absolutely. Um, I'm trying to think of any other games that would be. There was actually a couple of moments in Skyrim. I remember playing Skyrim,
Hmm.
where I'm like, oh Jesus, like this is getting a bit much now. I just want to play a game, chop off dragons' heads. Like, come on,
Yeah.
cop the fuck on. Like, actually, what I'm actually doing at the minute in terms of games is I'm playing a full playthrough, a replay through of the three Arkham games. So,
Ah.
Asylum, City, and Night, and I forgot how much like there's a couple of jump scares in the first one in
Oh,
Asylum.
with Scarecrow, wasn't it?
Yeah, with Scarecrow, I was like, yeah, I was just sitting here, like I think it's just an action game, so I'm sitting here in the dark, headphones on, so that I'm, the whole house isn't hearing me,
Yeah.
and I was sitting there in the Scarecrow, and I fucking shouted, and my wife was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Nothing, nothing, absolutely nothing." What happened? I was like, "Oh no, the dog just stepped on my nuts. It's okay." Um, it's absolutely fine. I'm like, fucking scared of a Batman game. Like Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. But I don't, I like scary movies and scary series and stuff like that. So to
Mm.
see this was kind of, it's definitely a welcome change
Yeah.
for Star Trek, because it's, it doesn't all have to be action. It doesn't all have to be sci-fi, science-y, technobabble. It can just
Mm.
be like a fun, frightening episode. And um, you definitely get to see people's certain acting chops in this. And I'm like, yeah, that was actually
Yes.
this actually all quite good.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was gonna touch on that point there when we get to acting because I think
Mhm.
I was worthy of talking about it. But yeah, so I think eight is a fair shout, a good start
Yeah,
that point for the review. Then we come to the setting. So whenever we do get an episode like this is a very much a demonstration of how much they can do with what they have essentially. Like we're not dealing with, because we'll have episodes later on this arc that has a lot more toys to play with in terms of
yeah,
presentation and aesthetics and so forth. And particularly with the next generation, they didn't have much to play with. They had their sets, they had their corridors, they had their bridge and stuff like that. And it was basically, what can we do to set the scene here? Like we were talking about it with the Year of Hell and how much they got that right, in the continuity in itself was going to be in trouble. So I think for what they wanted to do here, I think they nailed most of those points. But if there's
yeah.
anything you think yourself, Jerry, and what kind of score you'd put it to it, I'd be
I
happy to
I think
understand.
for me, obviously, we've seen the ready room before, we've seen the bridge before, we've seen, as you say, the corridors, 10 forward, and the engine room.
Mm,
Um, but to see them in such a different light, and I mean that figuratively, and um, I didn't mean to be. I don't know what the words are that are trying to come out of my mouth, but they're not coming out of my mouth. Basically, we've never seen them in that kind of light. We've never seen them. There's always been really bright, really clean, really pristine. That's what the
yeah.
Enterprise D has always been, pristine. So when you're seeing it different, like look at the scene where they go to the bridge
Mm,
and the lights are down, the consoles are off, the poor guy is slashed 3 times across the chest, the ops console is destroyed, and
so
it's
much
like,
so.
yeah, this is really good. Even just something as simple as walking down a darkened corridor with a flashlight, it gives you foreboding. It's ominous. It's like you're hearing the animal sounds in the background, so you can hear kind of grunts and clicks and like like it's pigs, and it's all different animals in the background, and it does get to you. You're like, fucking hell, this is a bit much here now.
Yeah.
um you can see they didn't have to do much. Like obviously they did more with the likes of Voyager and Year from Hell. I get that, because it's like so much damage going on. But this was very subtle, very very small amounts done to it. You've got, as I said, the damage done on the bridge. Take Troy's quarters for instance.
Mm,
You've got the steam rising. You've got the water dripping down from the ceiling. You've got vegetation. There's vegetation all over the place because there's plants and whatnot. So it's starting to look
mm.
like a tropical, climatey a thing.
Well,
And
I kind of
yeah,
got from it.
yeah, and then you've got her bath, which I thought was very strange. It was just like in the middle of her quarters. Obviously, we have never seen her quarters properly before, because I think I'd remember if we saw her bath just fucking sitting there.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something. Definitely something different. The as you said, they had only so much to work with, and I think they did really well with it. Now,
Mm,
is it to the same level as Year of Hell? No, of course not. But for what we needed, we didn't need that much
yeah.
to do it. Like all you needed was a darkened corridor with a little bit of red light over Borg's, not Borg, over Worf's kind of insectoidy Unas face,
Mm,
and that was enough. You're like, perfect. And
yeah.
it's real, like, oh, it's trying to get you, it's trying to grip you. Like even when they go to the engine room and you see the cobwebs, and you're like, oh, we're going to see fucking something spider here, and
That,
you're like, you
yeah.
already you're thinking back on, for a split second, you're like, oh, who's this going to be? Is it going to be Geordie? And then you realize, no, his fucking weird movements, it's Barkley. And you're like, when he comes up at the window there, you're like, oh jeez, oh fuck, die dirty, oh you bastard. And clearly the engine room is his nest.
Yes,
Um,
exactly.
is where his nest is. So yeah, I thought subtle little things is all that was needed. A darkened room, like even when they went to sick bay, it was dark. Like the only place on the whole ship that had normal light was the turbolift.
Yeah, that's it.
That was it. That's the only place, and it needed to have that much light because Worf needed to see where Picard was going, and it was very, very well done. So, again, not to the same standard as like Year of Hell, but I'm going to give it probably another 8.
I was gonna go for a 9 myself on that one.
I tell you what, I'll go with you on a 9 because I thought it was good enough because it was just subtle. You know, it didn't need massive amount of damage or massive amount of set changes. A light turned off was more than enough to give you that ominous feel that something is this is not going well here, lads. What's going on here? So yeah, well I'll go with you on the 9 on that. Absolutely.
Okay, fair enough. And next up then is writing. So I think this kind of suffers a little bit on the writing side. I think it's just the nature of the episode is not.
Yeah.
It tries too much to explain what's going on. And that kind of sounds a bit counterintuitive, but this is an episode where it's very action oriented. And I'm trying to think now, is there kind of a fair comparison that I'm thinking of? Like, there's a lot of science, there's a lot of technobabble, there's a lot of like explaining what's going on, which I think, for a certain degree, I think like they kind of do have to say something, or else there is just no dialogue in the episode, and that's just kind of a work of the premise, as it were. Is because like they are trying to figure out how to fix this problem, and in order to do so, they have to talk out the technobabble and talk out the science. And while that's like great and all, and it's kind of taking that actual science fiction first principles box, it is also a little bit dry, and it is kind of covering for the fact that they don't need to and can't do as many action and fight scenes as they want to here, so they need to talk through the whole problem. So in a weird way, I'm taking points away from it because it's very dialogue heavy. For a premise like this, you're thinking there'll be a bit more suspense and so forth, but of course then the first 10-12 minutes of this was the initial like something going wrong phase. So even that half an hour is still Data and Picard trying to fix the problem. So it's kind of, I guess the writing's maybe missing a little bit of middle ground where Data and Picard perhaps could have been on the shuttle for a little bit longer, or one or two other little things the scenario's looking for, kind of like maybe scenes that are just kind of like just didn't make the cut instead of something else. I don't know. So I'm gonna go for a 6 to 7 on the writing, because there's only so much you can do with a premise like this. You know.
I'll tell you what, I'll go with you on a 6 because yes, it did suffer a little bit in terms of writing. Obviously the premise of the episode is very good. But the writing itself, it did dip down, because as you say, they had to explain so much that it definitely took away from what was happening around it. If they had been, now I'd imagine it would have been quite difficult to try and kind of dumb it down, because you would have been taking a lot of the out of the episode then. So I can't, I'm not going to punish them that much, but I think 6 or 7 would be fairly accurate, because of all you wanted to do was to see everyone in this episode de-evolved and see what was going on, whereas you just got brief glimpses of everyone, and then they're like, how did this happen, and what's going on, and why is there kittens, but there's a lizard, what the fuck is happening here?
Exactly.
It's that type of thing. But okay, well let's go in the middle. Let's say 6.5.
6.5. Okay, fair enough. Okay, in that case then we move on to acting, which is your category of choice, Jerry. So what enjoyed this time around?
I think very strong from everybody in this episode. Oh, okay, no, I'm not going to say everybody. I think Crusher was just Crusher.
I think this happens when someone's acting, or if they're in the episode and they're also directing it, they tend to take a backseat acting wise. They tend to just
exactly. I think everybody in this, so like the various different, because everyone is trying to play a different kind of creature or de-evolved creature, or whatever it may be. Worf was, I think, fantastic. His aggression, he basically was turning into more of a Klingon than he has ever been. That's very obvious. anything from the eating to the aggressiveness on the bridge, even with Riker. I'm like, do you have to stand so close? And I'm like, oh,
Mm.
Jesus. Then you move over to Riker, who is getting slower. He's a little bit dumbed down, a little bit more kind of primordial. He's very, very good. Troy is fantastic as well.
Mm.
Too, she is starting to get, we'll say, kind of reptilian style, kind of at that amphibian type. That she wanted to hotter, and it's the kinds of water and the kind of twitches, little movements that she's doing. Um, we'll go to Picard and how it obviously started to affect him, and he's nervous and he's jittery and he's kind of like, and at one
Mm.
point he was literally biting his nails. I was like, he's literally biting his nails. Like, that's actually so good, because like
Yeah.
you would see Picard go, so what's happening now? Ha ha ha. I see.
Brr.
Engage. Ha ha. Whereas now, like, what we do now, and he is kind of almost like very indecisive, like, so good, so good. And then we get to Barclay, and you're like,
The
Jesus
star. I was waiting.
Christ, the star of the show. And like we were saying earlier on, it actually takes him to bring it up a notch.
Mm.
And he just knocked it out of the park with this one. It started off that he was just talking a little bit faster. That's all. So I was like, Jesus, he's had a couple of cups of coffee this morning. But then it's the movements, and I'm like, oh. I'm like, if I'm judging it just by him, it's getting a 10. You know what I mean? But I very much think the acting was superb in this episode. Even just for the subtle little things that you were doing, the small parts that they played in it. I would go 9 to a 10.
Yeah, I was thinking 9.5 personally. That's exactly what I had in mind, because like I said, I think
Stupid Crusher with that 0.5, wasn't it? Fucking Crusher.
No, it wasn't just her now, in fairness. I think it was also like I think Spot let the team down personally. Like
fucking,
you know
it. I hate cats.
Fucking no, it's not like the cat trying to pretend to be an iguana, and it just didn't work for me. No, in fairness, it was more so. I think the 0.5, I think is not. It's very improvisation. It felt like an improv pitch, if you know what I mean. It's kind of like, okay, now you're a lemur, now you're a reptilian, now there's this, and that's not a bad thing in a sense. It is very on the spot, good, solid acting. So it's not that bad, like that good in a sense. But I'm also comparing it to, say, the other tens in this category, which would be like Family, The Trouble with Tribbles, The Visitor, Yesterday's Enterprise. Those are emotional powerhouses.
Yeah.
Like, you need to be properly plucking on those fucking heartstrings. So this is kind of the opposite, where you're basically nailing your premise really, really well. And again, it's really like, because like at that stage you can't do anything visual, like aesthetics wise, to kind of throw this indicate there's something wrong. Like when you see Troy in a jacuzzi in her uniform, you can tell, okay, that's not meant to happen. She doesn't normally do that. Okay, so that's unusual. So that's something immediately visually striking. But outside of that, you're looking at the character's mannerisms, because Riker isn't normally that slow. Barclay is jittery, but not that jittery. And likewise, like everyone's, first of all, they're a person that's going to 11, and then they're starting to go further out into into more, shall we say, bigger standard deviations, if you like. And same with Geordi. Even the one we did mention there was Geordi. He isn't really mentioned in this episode, but he gets kind of like sloth-like. He's very slow and like panting and all that. We don't see him at all in this episode, but we can infer from the two scenes he was in, he's probably going to go into a primate / sloth type of phase.
Yeah,
So again, all different things like that, and the fact that you can pick them up immediately just from the acting is sign of very, very good direction. Like the director, who in this case is Gates McFadden, knew exactly what she wanted from these people, and she got them. And that's a sign of a good director, I have to say. Next up then is action. So probably for me, I felt deliberately light on action is the way I describe it. But whatever was there was good. It was more suspense. It was more pacing. It was more ambience. And then we have the kind of the bit with Worf and Picard then at the end. So overall, I think, like, because we've had episodes before where suspense replaces the action, And if the
Yeah.
suspense is done well, we still score high in this category.
Mhm.
So I still think it's quite a good category in that sense. Obviously, like the first like 10 minutes are a bit of a wash when it comes to the action because it's neither suspenseful nor engaging, but it's kind of setting the stage almost. So I have to take points off that for myself. But overall, for action, again, adding in the what they did to kind of build it up and to kind of ratchet up the tension, I'm gonna go with a 7 on this one. Yeah, I think a 7. I think is a fair shout.
I think I'll go to 7 as well. As you said, but there wasn't as much in this. But there are moments in it that you would take part of the action. So, Worf and his venom
Hmm.
on Doctor Crusher. It's all kind of centralized around Worf. So you've got his aggression to Riker. Then you've got um, his the way he's eating, and I know it's not exactly action, but it's leading towards something that this guy is going to fucking snap here. He's going to go mental.
Yeah.
Even him tearing his quarters apart just so he can make a bed of crap on the ground.
Yes,
Then you've got the him trying to come through the door as I'm just going to keep calling him an Unis because that's the only thing I can compare it to because the makeup was very, very similar. But what was there was good. It didn't need a lot. So yeah, I'll go with 7 as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. And then for me, that I think is the busiest category of the lot is the effects.
Oh yeah.
So now this one is obviously this is what the episode will pride itself on is the makeups, the prosthetics, the gradual deterioration, let's say, of the crew into their devolved look. So again, we mentioned Worf in this kind of proto Klingon getup. You have Riker and a few others becoming more ape-like. Ogawa's makeup I thought was quite good with the kind of sapien look as well. Then we have Troy with the amphibian look, and I think Crusher in that scene as well seemed to have the scales as well.
Yeah.
I think it was Crusher anyway. It certainly looked like her from
It looked like her, yeah. From the hair alone, it looked like her. But I think the best out of all of them has to have been Barkley because
Barkley, yeah, it was very good.
that makeup with the eyes, the fingers, the twitching, everything, that was just fantastic. I think the two, but if you were to pick 3 out of all of them, would have to be Troy, which the amphibian look was fantastic. The kind of scale, like the pulsating on the throat was very good. You've got the armor that is on Worf, and it's obviously he wasn't completely de-evolved because his left arm was kind of more like some sort of clawed, almost like a crab type of.
I kind of got like a crab motif
Yeah.
from design, yeah.
But then you've got on the other side, so on the right hand side, you can still see some of the uniform in his arm. You can see his hand is only a little bit different. You can still see the uniform coming down and then onto his legs. So he wasn't completely devolved, but I think they did it fantastic. Very insectoidy, kind of crabbish like exoskeleton, because that's what it was. It was an exoskeleton. So that's what we compare it to. And then of course Barkley's just absolutely fantastic, terrifying look. Absolutely terrifying. I thought Riker's was good. I thought Nurse Ogawa's was good. And you look at Nurse Ogawa and you think that was Planet of the Apes. That's how good it was. That's how good the makeup was. So I think for effects and makeup, I'd have to go with 10 because it was that good.
I have to take a point off for something.
Go
I
on.
hate being right, but
Go on.
it's Worf's venom. So the first time when he hits Crusher with the venom, it's a kind of a blue, almost like throat spray. It's like a blue and yellow and white, whatever else is, and then it's obviously added on, and Crusher kind of like scatters away basically.
Mhm.
But the stuff that like Picard is hit with is an acid.
Yeah.
It's two completely different things. Like it's that one is an actual spray of something much more fine. It's more like a mist. Whereas the stuff that hits Picard, okay, granted, I know there's a time stream in between. You can argue that like it gets more viscous over time, but it's fucking bright green. It's acidic, and it's like gloopy as well. It's like it can't have changed that much in that time. It can't have got that concentrated, especially if like it had burned fucking Crusher's face off as we were hearing in Ogawa's thing. So that's the one thing I think they got wrong in this episode was it did act, and again, that's unfortunately because they couldn't have done something more severe looking, or especially now with the shot that they had. If they
Yeah.
done something where, like, say, you never saw Crusher going away, you just like you saw the spray coming from Worf's face, and that's it. Maybe that would have been better. But for the shot they were wanted, they couldn't have done something a bit more any more violent than that because they would have obviously been troubling the sensors there. So listen, I would have said 10 out of 10 completely outside of that, so I have to say 9, or at least 9.5.
I tell you what, we'll go with 9. I'll go with you on 9 because I hadn't really thought about that, to be honest with you. But yeah, no, I agree. So yeah,
It just
we'll
kind
go
of
with
caught me. It's like it just when I was when it was just a shot when Picard had finally subdued Worf, and I noticed all the green kind of speckles on the uniform. It's like, wasn't that fucking blue like half an hour ago? Like, look away. But yeah, that's just me being fussy, I
that.
guess. Next up then is another one of your categories, Jerry, the score. Overall positive category for me, anyway.
Very, very positive category. Obviously, at the start and at the end, it's your typical next generation suite, which is obviously you can't complain because it's always good. But the pace at which the music went, the bump bump bump, almost like jaw, kind of at points jaws like,
Yeah,
very 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 good. The jump of Barclay and the music behind it, um everything, the kind of very suspenseful when there's like Picard is trying to get away from Worf, you're like yeah, really really like that. I don't know whether I'd go as high as a 10, um but it was definitely different because obviously you needed to have that kind of horror feel to it.
yeah.
And I think it absolutely knocked that out of the park. But to be quintessentially still next generation, you could still hear the little nods to next generation music in there. So I'd go an H19.
Yeah, I was thinking eight. We'll go 8.5 then in the middle
Yeah.
because I think what kind of caught me was that obviously there wasn't. It was a fairly quiet start to the episode, which
Mm-hmm.
again I think is a positive in this respect
Yeah.
because it is business as usual. There shouldn't be any
Mm-hmm.
music to that, especially if there's nothing going on. It is only when you see that when people do start changing, that's when the music kicks in, and especially that middle part of the episode where Data and Picard come back on and you hear the ambience, the atmospheric music. That's so well fucking done. It is sublime. I don't think they kept it up for the entire episode though.
Yeah.
They kind of get went like there could have been maybe a bit more ambient noise during some of the kind of boring talking bits, kind of way, rather than
Mm.
having one or the other. I think they could have kept some of that going, just to kind of keep a level of tension going throughout those
Yeah.
scenes. Whereas after a while, it kind of felt like Data and Picard were kind of in control, and then suddenly Worf is here, and then it picks up again. So I think it could have done with a bit more of the same, but that's all we got in the end. But I think it's a decent score all the same. Next up then are scenes. So, um, not an episode that I will remember in terms of like really powerful like scenes or memorable scenes and that, but solid scenes is what I would say.
Yeah.
Like scenes that make sense to them, and one genuinely funny scene in Spock being an iguana. Like I don't know if that was intended to be like integral to the plot or anything, but I couldn't take it fucking seriously because
No, I couldn't. No, you can't take something like that seriously.
you have to fucking put the pink collar on an iguana and expect me to kind of like feel sorry for the kittens. No, that's not happening. That's fucking hilarious. That is objectively funny. I think overall, all the scenes kind of work with here. Like again, you'd probably say that the first 10 minutes like are like a little bit of they're not necessarily wasted space. That's not true, but it is time that is required to set up what happens next. Especially the opening scene where like they are literally like as I said, they're setting up the stall here. It's completely incongruous to what actually happens in the end. Again, not necessarily a bad thing, but considering where it goes, it feels like two different episodes,
Yeah.
kind of way. Which I suppose is the point because it's like normality, and oh shit, everything's gone terribly wrong. And then like at the end scene is where everything's back to normal again,
And they're wisecracking and they're joking and
Yeah.
it's a strange one. Yeah, it's solid, but I couldn't really pick out one scene where I was like, well, that was better than everything else. Maybe the scene where it's Nurse Ogawa and Barclay and Riker and they're all playing different roles essentially. Like Riker's getting just slower and dumber. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And then they're trying, and that's Barkley, and you're like, fucking hell, okay, yeah, it's that he's gone a mile a minute there. That's the only one I could kind of say, right, that stands out above everything else.
Yeah.
But it's not, it's solid. I wouldn't necessarily stay strong.
Yeah,
So
it's always my kind of metric for that is like, is it a scene that like you can say upload it out of context and you know, oh, it's this fucking brilliant scene,
no,
just regardless of the episode, and there
no.
isn't one like that, but there are episodes that are solid without
Yeah,
context in a sense. So I think I'll go with a 7 personally on that on
I'll
that.
go with it. I'll go with a 7 on that as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and then two fairly dull categories for this one. Category or character and consequences. We'll start with character. Very little character development in this one, I'll be honest. Bar Barkley getting something named after him, which is usually a sign of like you fucked up, so we're going to name this after you as an example to the others. But otherwise, we don't. Doesn't everything kind of resets back to normal in this episode, really, doesn't
Yeah.
it? You know,
It's very much a it starts off with, okay, well, it's all plain and ordinary, then shit hits the fan, but then the fan gets turned off, they clean the shit up, and we're back to normal. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, there's no
Yeah.
real like, yeah, I go because I don't like ever being mean for the sake of being mean, but I'd only go about a 5.
Yeah, I think 5 is usually kind of like it's kind of like a measure of like nothing happened, you know,
Yeah.
kind of way. Nothing
Unless
good.
something was really bad, it would go below 5. But like, yeah, 5.
Yeah, and I think probably the same for consequences, really, wouldn't it? Like
I would be perfect, yeah, because the only consequence of this is that Barkley, even though he's happy that he got something named after him, his hypochondria gets worse after this. It gets
That's
worse
true.
after this because he gets worse when he's with Troy on the Voyager episodes,
Yeah.
and he has a reoccurrence of his hollow addiction. Which I'm sorry, if holodecks were real, then just sign me up, and I will happily say I'm an addict. I'll happily say that I'm a holoholic. You know,
Holoholic.
a holoholic. Absolutely, just hook that shit to my vein.
Holophile.
Because I tell you what, I want to know exactly what Vulcan Love Slave is all about. That's it.
Oh dear. Yeah, well, fair to say we know where Jerry's going to go, and that's Free Cloud. That's where he'll be the entire day. He'll be on T-Space 9 with Nog or with Quark, cleaning out the holodeck.
Here, listen. If Star Trek was real, I know where I'd be living, and I wouldn't be fucking Deep Space Nine.
Ryza.
I would be hooking Ryza to my fucking veins.
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, you need those. You need all the fertility symbols you can get.
I'd have 50 of the bastards.
Fair enough. So yeah, so we end up with 5 down for character and consequences, which leaves us a final score of 74.5. It's 3/4 an episode, Jerry.
Yeah.
Which, as you can accept, that doesn't really hit the top 10.
No.
In fact, Genesis actually appears ahead of Conspiracy, The Battle, and The Timeless in our scoreboards, which we have now coming up on the screen in full. But as a reminder, I shall give you the top 10 as things stand. So, in 10th place, or rather joint 10th place as things stand, is the Andorian Incident and Skin of Evil, both on 83. On 9th then is No Small Parts with 83.5. That's sharing, actually, the role, I should say. Joint 8th place with The Visitor, which is 83.5 from Deep Space Nine. So it's joint 8th and joint 10th, respectively. Then we have The Emissary, a half point ahead of that in 7th, excuse me, on 84. Then we have Year of Hell, our most recent iteration before this, which is now 85 and currently 6th in our list. But the top 5, currently undisturbed, is Amok Time from the original series on 88 out of 100. The Best of Both Worlds from The Next Generation, 90.5. A Quality of Mercy, sharing second place with In the Pale Moonlight on 91, and currently undisturbed at the top of the pile is Yesterday's Enterprise at 95 1.5. So it's fair to say Genesis was not going to upset the apple cart here today.
No.
Still a good a decent serviceable episode. Certainly not the worst Next Generation episode we've watched so far. That credit still goes to the Arsenal of Freedom, and I don't think we'll come across a worse episode than that at the moment. But overall, still a fun episode nonetheless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a good start for where we're going next, Jerry. Because for those who are sticking around to the end of the video to see where we are going next, here is exactly the preview to get. So we mentioned that we've done a horror episode here, so we're doing what we've done previously with arcs, and we're basically getting a bit of a cherry pick of each of each kind of series of Star Trek we can get to. So we're doing a horror arc this time around, and again, you can kind of call them scary episodes or whichever. But the next one we're going to disembark on is in Voyager, and this episode is called The Thaw, which is often considered a very psychological mindfuckery kind of episode. Where again, it actually kind of ticks the box quite well. The crew of Star Trek Voyager are going to confront fear, fear itself, and it takes the place of a monochrome clown, which I think is genuinely one of the most irritating things I can think of. So that works out quite well.
I don't like clowns. I don't like clowns.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of clowns either myself. But that certainly ticks, I suppose, the psychological horror box, if you like. Then we move on then to Enterprise, and this one's going to be a bit of a fun watch. I don't think it's going to be nowhere near the top 10, nor do I think it's going to hit the top 20. But this is a zombie episode, and it's the only zombie episode they've done to date. This one's called Impulse. This is where basically the Star Trek, basically the original Enterprise encounters some zombie Vulcans. And again, it is purely a Dawn of the Dead, fucking Evil Dead ripoff. Nothing more than that. Let's just have fun watching it. I think that's the way I would look at it. It's not going to be a serious entry, but we need to watch some Enterprise eventually in this fucking show, so we might as well start off with some zombie Vulcans. So then we get to some more important episodes, some more serious episodes, right? So as ever, we turn to Deep Space Nine when it comes to important and serious episodes. And if we're thinking of horrors, let's go for, I suppose you'd probably call survival horror, something along those lines. And we talk about Empok Nor, where the Cardassians get activated. And we finally get to see that dark side of Garak we've been promised the entire show.
Yeah.
The one where he's not being sexually ambiguous towards Dr. Bashir. Oh, I'm a kid. He wasn't ambiguous to him at all. But then obviously that kind of like signs off our kind of our main arc, and then we always for like I suppose the fifth episode in these kind of runs, we always kind of have an episode that kind of ticks both boxes, as in the sign off of an arc that we've done, but the start of our next one. So when it comes to horrors, one very recent ideal example of this was from Strange New Worlds. And this one is called All Those Who Wander, and this is our reintroduction of the Gorn.
Yes.
And it's a great delve into Noonien Singh's character and where she came from and how she kind of as it were survived the Gorn, and of course then is a good basically transition then into what would become a human Gorn conflict, which we had established in the original series in a hilariously bad episode called Arena. You know it because you've seen it, and believe me, you have. Trust me. So that's our kind of pivot episode, because after that then we're not only talking about, we've moved on to horror episodes now. We're talking about wars, conflicts, things that humans have had to deal with over the years. Rivals, give it, take, whichever one you want. So All Those Who Wander is an example of humanity confronting the Gorn. So now let's move on to other races, such as the Kazon. Yeah, so we're going back to Voyager again for the next episode after that. So episode 36 is a Kazon episode, and the one we're picking is State of Flux, which I suppose commonly known as the one where Seska turns heel. That's probably the best way I can describe it. I think it's the best to pick of the bunch, really. The other one we could have gone for was Basics, but that's a two-parter, and we kind of have a rule set in place for two-parter. We don't want to burn them out too quickly. So State of Flux, I think, is still part of that arc, and it's a pretty good episode even by its own by its own confrontation. I suppose like there wasn't really a human Kazon war, but this is kind of the
No.
closest to. We had
Yeah.
spies, we had defectors, all this sort of stuff. So we go from there. But the next four, Jerry, are big fucking hitters. So episode 37, we're going back to Enterprise. And we're going back to the episode that was very much inspired by real life events. This is The Expanse, where the Xindi weapon took a big fucking cleave out of the earth from Florida all the way down to Brazil. I think it was. I can't remember.
Mhm.
And very much inspired by the real terrorist incident of 9/11. And this is Enterprise's basically kind of retelling of it. It's a powerful episode. It's a brilliant episode, and it is the basically the start of the human Xindi war that very much was the theme of Enterprise season 3. Was it season 3? It was season 3.
The entire season 3 was the conflict between Earth and Xindi.
Yeah, exactly. That's when they go into the Badlands, isn't it? So the proverbial expanse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I think so.
Not the Badlands, but it's the Expanse. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a term for it. I just can't remember what it was. Yeah. So anyway, so that's the start of it, which is the Expanse, and I think is that the season 2 end of Enterprise. I think.
Season 2 ending of Enterprise. Yes.
Yeah, it was.
Because there's a bit of fighting in it as well, and it's not even the Xindi they're fighting.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
I'm not going to say. I'm going to leave that to the episode because it's a cracker, absolute cracker.
Yeah. So it does actually tick both boxes there in that sense. So yeah, we'll get to that once we arrive at that point. But actually, yeah, no, that's true actually because it takes I think it's like 3 fucking boxes this episode ticks. So we're happy out there. So then we move on then to something we haven't done before. We're doing a double header of a series in the next 3 episodes, but it doesn't get any better than this, right? So we're going back to Deep Space Nine. Jerry's on tender hooks here as I start calling out these episodes. So our first DS9 episode of this arc is going to be Duet, and this is I think for me because like this is the first season of Deep Space Nine, and some of the episodes are a bit of a wash. You know, you don't need to as it were remember these ones, but this is the first episode. This is like for me, this is like Conspiracy for season 1 of Star Next Generation. This is the episode where they get their shit together and they really delve into what isn't actually a human conflict this time. This is the Cardassian occupation of Bajor, and again, given current events at the time, this is going to be a very, very topical episode. So Duet is on our radar and is going to be an absolutely tremendous watch, and I can't wait to watch it to feel critically. Which again gives us an ideal example then to talk about the Cardassians, and what better way then to go back to Next Generation, where the Cardassians came from, as you recall. And this is actually the first episode we talk about the Cardassians, and it's also our first episode that is very O'Brien heavy.
Yep.
So in this episode, episode 39, we're talking about the Wounded. This is the one with Captain Maxwell, with Goldakat before he was given his real name. We have O'Brien talking about the Cardassian War. An absolutely incredible episode and a very criminally underrated episode of Star Trek, just in overall. I think it's an absolutely brilliant watch, especially for just a one and done. And I think we're going to have a tremendous time watching it. But Jerry, all that leads to episode 40. And we all know the drill. We all do a 2-parter when we get to a multiple of 10. And what better conflict? What other conflict could be defined in Star Trek than humans and Klingons? And unfortunately, there wasn't great examples in the original series for the Earth, for the human Klingon war. And Discovery is far too shit for us to consider as a viable opponent. So we're doing The Way of the Warrior Part 1 and 2 from Deep Space Nine. And this is the one, Jerry, that you think is going to top yesterday's Enterprise.
This is... I have said this from the start, that if there was one doubleheader or one episode that literally ticks all the boxes, when you look at all the 10 categories that we do, this ticks every box. And I just feel like this is the one. This is the episode to end them all. This is like the one ring, the one to rule them all.
Mm.
This is the one. Now we have to wait and see exactly how we score it on the night when we watch it.
Yes.
But I genuinely believe I there was a couple of episodes when we had our number one there, which was in the Pale Moonlight, and I said I didn't
Mm.
want Pale Moonlight to be beaten because it's such a fantastic episode, start to finish. It has everything in it. The one thing it was really lacking though was the action part of it.
Mm.
Graphics in it, it had acting in it, it had music in it, it had storytelling, it had scenes, it had consequences, like the ultimate consequences for any episode that we've ever had, apart from maybe Q Who. Um, yeah, I think Q Who probably if we could have gone higher than a 10 for consequence of Q Who, we would have.
Yeah.
This for me, I'm looking at every category. I'm thinking about everything from the music to the acting to the scenes to the graphics to the consequences to the storytelling. Very, very possibly a perfect score. Very, very possibly. Whether it does or not on the night, it remains to be seen. I know what way I want to score it. It comes down to you, Jonathan. So it's all going to come down to that. We've a good few episodes to get through before then. I'm actually quite excited for the next round of episodes. The one we talked about there, which was the Strange New Worlds Gorn episode, I think is there are scary episodes, there are quote quote horror episodes, but I think this is the one and only true horror episode,
Yeah.
because it's scary, it's suspenseful, it's thrilling. It kind of makes you, if you're someone, obviously if you're watching Star Trek and you're a sci-fi fan, so if you remember how you felt when you watched Alien or
Yeah.
Aliens, this it gets you going the exact same way, because it is actually frightening, and
Mm.
it's the purest of horror. I think in any of the episodes, but the list of episodes that we've got, I'm like, yeah, I'm here for all of them. I can't wait to watch them. And the fact that we've a couple of Enterprise episodes coming
Yes.
along as well, because I think Enterprise just it doesn't get the fair shake that it deserves. I think it's a fantastic series. It should have gotten 7 seasons. Don't mind 5. A lot of people say you should have gotten 5 seasons. No, it should have gotten, like every other Star Trek show, should have got 7. That's what it should have got, but it didn't. We only got 4, which was criminally fucking insane of the producers and the directors and the executives at the time. That we didn't get even one more series. I think we got that one more series with the Romulan War. I think that would have been it. We would have gotten
Okay.
another 2 seasons after that, 100%, because it would have really kickstarted exactly. It's exactly what people wanted, and all we got was a lousy 3 episodes of what we possibly could have gotten with a Romulan War, and then it moved on to Earth terrorists, and I'm like,
The terraformer. Yeah. No, fairness now.
yeah,
That was,
it was good, but I'm like, no, I want the fucking Romulans. Get them back.
yeah.
Get them back. I want to see a fight with a bird of prey. Come on, fuck.
Yeah.
But we didn't get it. But listen, we've got some really, really, really good episodes coming up, and I am excited for all of them. But obviously, episode 40 is looming,
Yes.
and I'm like,
Great.
oh.
So by the end of the year, we will have watched Away the Warrior and could very well have a new leader on the board. But again, it's all those ones that we might be sleeping on. Like, who can say that, like, The Expanse or All Those Who Wander or The Wounded might actually surprise us and breach the top 3 or top 5.
That's it.
It's hard to say. It's hard to say. I personally, I know, like, from my ones, there's a few I'm kind of recognizing, thinking, no, these are actually sleeper episodes, or at least I remember them being
Yeah.
good episodes. But that's where we have to critical eye them and think, oh, actually,
There's a few dark horses, I think, in that list. How many is on that list? Is 9, is it?
well, yeah, 9 altogether now after we
9
watched it.
I think there's definitely a few dark horses on that list. The Wounded being one of them. Such a fantastic episode. It is very O'Brien centric. I think if you're a Star Trek fan, you will remember some of the lines from the minstrel boy now.
Yes.
That he sings in it. Which
Kind of springboards the O'Brien character as well a little bit, doesn't it? It actually cements him as an actual genuine Star Trek, like a genuine character, as
oh yeah,
opposed to being the
he
transport.
he was just somebody who was in the transporter room or somebody who was like a background character
Yeah.
for Next Generation. This cements him as, oh no, you're an actual character, and this is where it begins. This is where you begin to understand why in the future he's the most important man who ever was in Starfleet.
Yes, and in Lower Decks paying respect where it's rightfully due.
Yes.
So yeah, so that's all to look forward to, guys. It's a wonderful year of episodes coming up, and we're really looking forward to it. I love doing these kind of arcs as well because it means we have an excuse to watch a certain episode and we can just go, fuck it, let's watch a bit of this and that as well. And like I said, we like our intention is never to just chase the next best episode we have because, as I said, we all have our own kind of inherent biases. We'd be very DS9 and Next Generation heavy. We'd be doing the Dominion War all the time. Some kind of spots from Voyager and the Enterprise. We want to try and be fair. We want to try and absorb different types of Star Trek, which is why we're doing the Enterprise twice in this run, why we're doing DS9 3 times, because we have been quite we've weaned ourselves off DS9 a little bit in this run, but we're giving ourselves a triple dose of it here. And like we do with Voyager, we want to give Voyager its fair credit as well, because for the longest time Voyager was the worst episode on this run. So we want to be completely fair to it as well. So that's where we're at now. It's gonna be a fun run. And we shall see if yesterday's Enterprise can stay a top spot by the end of the year. I don't think it will, personally. I think Way of the War probably will pip it at the post, just by my own kind of just kind of presumption, as it were. Because like it's always a chink in the armor. There's always something that an episode is missing. But that's what we're here for. Our quest is to find the best episode of Star Trek ever. And we may have found it by the end of the year. We shall wait and see. To be fair, if we rank it as 100, we might as well just stop the show because then,
if we did rank it at 100, it was like, okay, we found the best episode ever. That's it. We're done. Thanks. Night, folks.
Good night. There will be no encore.
Yeah.
Exactly. But in any case, we'll see if that ever does come to pass. But for now, I shall leave you in the immortal hands of Mr. Jerry Soul. It's time for you to plug whatever's happening in your life, Jerry. What is going on in the life and times of Mr. Jerry Soul?
Well, I think by the time this episode comes out, we will be closer to the start of March, which of course is Dublin Comic Con Spring Edition, which is early March. I think it's around about the 8th or 9th or 9th or 10th. I don't know the exact date.
Is the 9th and 10th, yeah.
9th and 10th. Okay, so 9th and 10th. Yeah. We have some fantastic guests coming. I will be looking very carefully at the list of guests to see who I'll be interviewing. For their panels. The ones I'm looking at are the likes of John DiMaggio, who does Bender from Futurama. Yes. We have
so
Mark,
many others.
and so many others. We've got Mark Shepard from Supernatural fame. We have the three main characters, voice actors of the GTA 5 game, which would be Trevor, Michael, and Franklin. I always want to say Terrence for some reason. I don't know why. Franklin. We have all three there. Just mentioned today I actually don't know the actress's name, but we have one of the Power Rangers coming as well. One of the newer ones, I believe, not one of the old ones. One of the newer ones. We've also got a couple of actors from the Baldur's Gate 3 game, I believe, and we have some two of the actors from One Piece, which I've not watched yet, so I have a month to watch it, which is currently on Netflix. Apparently, it's very good. I've been told it's very good. One of the actors on it is he's very well known for being a EastEnder hard man. He's in The Rise of the Foot Soldier, and he's very much a hard man in a lot of the things that he's in. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I don't actually believe we're finished announcing guests. Unfortunately, we did have an announcement last week of a guest. It was he was in. For the life of me, his name actually escapes me now.
Carl Weathers, yeah.
Carl Weathers, thank you. We literally announced him, and I had gotten a message from my. I won't call her co-host because she would be more senior than me with regards to hosting duty. So I will say my senior co-host,
Mm.
we'll say, with regards to Comic Con, Olivia. And she said to me, she said, "Listen, I've just found out who we're getting next as a guest, and I thought as soon as I saw the name, okay, I'm going to have a fight with Jerry over this person. So Jerry, when you're here, can you just let me do it, and you can have all the other guests or whoever the hell you want in terms of guests." And she said Carl Weathers, and I'm like, of course, absolutely. And I said, I'm going to defer to you. And I said, all I want to do is meet him. And then, sadly, 5 hours, literally 5 hours after it was announced that he was going to be coming to Dublin Comic Con, it was announced sadly that he had passed away, which was a great shock to us and to all his fans, and obviously to his family. The fact that it was so sudden. But unfortunately, these things happen, and we have to move on. So I'm sure that the good folk at Dublin Comic Con are looking to try and replace him. Now, how you could, I don't know, because it was that was a big name. It was somebody that for the past 11 years, this year is now 11 years of Comic Con in Dublin, they've been trying to get for the full 11 years, and finally they had gotten him, and unfortunately, sadly, he has passed away. So I'd imagine there would be some sort of tribute to him at Dublin Comic Con. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I know the guys, the management were big fans of his, and it's just such a shock that unfortunately he won't be there. But we unfortunately, and I think he would probably agree as well. No matter what, the show must go on. So we move on, and we will see who exactly we get come early March. And fingers crossed, we all have a good show at Comic Con, because it's Comic Con Spring and Summer Edition, my two favorite weekends of the entire year. I always take extra time off around them, and I make sure that I'm there to help out with regards to sets or anything else that needs to be, because and it's not, I'm not going to do it I'm not doing it for money or anything like that. I'm doing it for the pure enjoyment of being a part of this thing and being there. I absolutely love it. We may be doing something with regards to a masquerade. I'm not 100% about that right now. It won't be a competition like it was last year. It'll be more of a show off your costume type of thing. But that remains to be seen. I don't know the full details of that right now. But when I do, I'll be able to let you good folks know exactly what's happening. But that's happening for me in just over a month's time. From the date we're obviously recording this. So it'll be closer to the time when you see it. But I'm really looking forward to it, and I can't wait.
Yeah, absolutely, and certainly, no doubt, I will be. I'll hopefully be there to see you, because I'm certainly the Grand Theft Auto 5 one now is particularly I'm looking forward to, because the three lads apparently are batshit when they're around. So you're gonna have your hands full with the three lads.
Oh,
So
I can't wait for that, especially Stephen Ogg.
yeah, he's a head case. So have fun with that. Him and Trevor are very fucking close to the bone, as I recall. And so you're gonna have a lot of fun with that, and of course with everyone else like Emily Rudd and so forth. So you're gonna have a great time with that. So yeah, there you go. So yeah, in terms of me, I have nothing to promote, because you're no doubt seeing my fucking mush every single day on this channel. So I've nothing to give you on that one. Just support the channel as best you can. Give us a bell on the on YouTube, because that's probably the best way at the moment for you to follow the channel, because I've let my Twitter go dormant because Elon Musk is a prick. So that's all I really have to say on that one, really. So if there's anything to take away from this video, it's that Elon Musk is a prick, and that's the best thing I can give you on that one. So in any case, guys, thank you very much for watching this video. If you agree with our score, or if you disagree, indeed, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. We also want to hear ideas for episodes you'd like us to review on this show. Anything you think that kind of falls within the preview of our horror or war episodes, let us know, and we can always add a PS at the end of the arc if we have time for it. Otherwise, let us know about other arcs you'd like us to do. Any other particular episodes, one-offs you want us to have a look at. We are more than happy to oblige if you let us know in the comments below. But otherwise, give us a like, share, and subscribe. By all means, look at the rest of the videos we've done on this channel, all on the playlist here called Best of All Worlds. But in that case, if all else is done, we shall leave you, as we always do, with a friendly message of peace and gesture. Yeah.